Hey, it's Jay. Welcome in. Today we are going to discuss the movie Death of a Cheerleader. So, Death of a Cheerleader is a true story based on two 15-year-old girls from California. The movie is starring Tori Spelling and Kelly Martin. So, Tori Spelling's character is named Stacy Lockwood, and Kelly Martin's character is Angela Del Vecchio. Okay? So we got Stacy and we got Angela. Right. So when the movie opens up, Stacy is standing in front of what I assumed in the beginning was a neighbor's door, but it's not a neighbor. She's in a random neighborhood. She's standing there. She's knocking on the door asking if she can use their telephone. When they open the door, she tells them that she was at a church waiting on some friends, and the friend she was with got weird on her, so she just wants to call her parents. Her parents are actually out at her brother's baseball banquet, her little brother's baseball banquet. So she does. They let her in. I mean, she's blonde haired, typical young teenage girl. She's no threat. So they let her in. She calls her house. No one answers. Remember, this is in 85-ish, 84, I'm sorry. So there's no cell phones. So she calls her house, no one answers. The man of the house offers to take her home because she was just gonna walk home. Or however she's gonna get home, she was gonna leave. So he offers to take her home, and he does. She accepts, he does. When he drops her off, I don't know if she couldn't get in the house, if she didn't have keys. I don't know that situation, but she chooses to go to the neighbor's house. So en route to the neighbor's house, which is right next door, Angela jumps out of the car. We now see that she's full on pissed. So she jumps out of the car and she says, "I would have taken you home." And Stacy's like, "Why don't you just leave? You are so weird. Why don't you just leave me alone?" Stacy turns her back. Angela stabs her multiple times. They cut scene. This is a TV movie. There will be a lot of commercials and a lot of cut scenes. So they cut scene. They don't go to commercial. They just cut scene. And we are at the beginning of the school year. Keep in mind, these girls are 15 years old. They are freshmen in high school. This is the beginning of the school year. So we don't know the time frame of when she was unalive, but we do see her here. So we know this is a flashback. So Angela is sitting there with her friend Jill. Her principal is giving we're going to be the best we can be this year speech. And Angela turns to her friend Jill and she says, "I'm going to be the best me I can be." Now, Jill is like her childhood friend, so they've known each other even before high school. So she's like, "Yeah, you're great at everything already. You're a great student." And she was like, "No, I'm going to try out for the yearbook team. I'm going to try out for the cheerleader squad. And I think I want to be a Lark." So the Larks are a social group in this close-knit neighborhood and school that they do charity work. They volunteer at like nursing homes, that kind of thing. But it's essentially a social club. So her friend is like, "Why? That's not our scene. Why do you want to do that?" So she's like, "Because I'm going to be the best I can be. I'm going to do what he says and I'm going to be the best I can be." So her friend is like, "Okay." So she's looking at Stacy at this point. She doesn't know Stacy yet. She's looking at Stacy and she's just like, "Oh, I wish I could be like her. She looks like she has it all. And, I wish I could be like her." So they fast forward to lunch. So this particular school, like all schools on TV, they eat lunch outside. I didn't have that luxury in high school, but they eat lunch outside. And Stacy and her crew are sitting by a tree, and Angela and Jill are about to sit down. And Jamie is one of Angela's friends from childhood who they're not as close as they used to be, but they're still friendly. So Jamie comes over and she's like, "Hey, Angela, you want to come over here and sit with us?" So she looks at Jill and Jill's like, "Sure, go ahead." And Jamie is sitting with Stacy. This is how she meets Stacy Lockwood. So again, they fast forward. It is a TV movie. They fast forward, and this is a couple weeks in, maybe a month, and Stacy runs up to Jill at the end of the day because Jill's mom picks them up. So Stacy runs to Jill at the end of the day, and she's like, "Guess what?" She's like, "What?" She's like, "I got a job at this in the school office." And she's like, "Oh, that's cool." And she's like, "Yeah, and guess who I'm working with?" And she's like, "Well, you're excited, so it must be someone good." So she was like, "Yeah, it's Stacy Lockwood." So she was like, "Great, now you guys are gonna be best friends." And Angela was like, "She doesn't even know I exist, but you never know." And she's like, "And I want to be a lark." That comes up again, right? So again, Jill is like, I don't get it, but okay. So they drop her off, and Jill yells out the car, "This is going to be a great year, Angela. You're going to see. I believe in you." All kinds of good best friend stuff. So the next scene is Angela and Stacy. Well, Angela working, Stacy flirting with her boyfriend over the front counter in the main office. And Stacy says to Angela, "Well, you're the best writer in the school, right? Can you write him a note? He was late, to get him out of trouble." She does, because she wants to be down. And Stacy completely ignores her after that. Like, she uses her for that, and that's it. Then the principal comes out, and he's like, "Hey, Stacy, you gonna try out for the team, the cheerleading team?" And she's like, "Yeah, I wouldn't miss it." And Angela's like, "I'm gonna try out too." And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's nice." And he praises Stacy. They cut scene. They cut scene for a couple of weeks. No, I apologize. So in walks Jamie. Jamie is like, "Hey, to Stacy, we're having the student body is sponsoring." So this must be a few months in. The student body is sponsoring a trip to somewhere in the mountains. It's co-ed. The boys are going. It's going to be a ski trip in the mountains. You should come. So Stacy's like, "I'll think about it," because she's a snob. And she says to Angela, "You should come too." And Angela's like, "Me? Why me?" And she's like, "Yeah, everybody's going." So Angela goes home, and she begs and she begs and she begs her mom. And her mom is like, "But it's co-ed?" And she's like, "Yeah, but they're going to be in a different part. It's going to be chaperoned." And her mom is like, "Well, it's expensive." And she's like, "Yeah, but I'll work it. I'll work for it." Her mom eventually says yes. So she's excited, and she's telling Jill. And Jill's like, "Oh, great." She said yes, but the ticket is $75. You need ski gear, and you need to learn how to ski. And Angela says, "Well, we can learn together." And Jill is like, "Oh no, ma'am. I don't want no parts of this trip." So Angela was like, "Well, I'll do it. I'll get the money." And she does. They show her over the course of a few weeks. It's a montage of her doing odd jobs and babysitting and that kind of thing. So she gets the money. Her and Jill go to the mall. She still cannot afford the ski gear that she wants. So she ends up borrowing the gear from someone. They don't say who, but she borrows the gear. They go to commercial. They come back. The kids are on their way to the mountains. It's still summery, but I guess in the mountains it's cold enough to wear ski gear. The timeline is very much off. But, oh, maybe it's November. It might be November, but still it's California. So I don't know how cold it would be for ski gear, but this is what they have. So they, like I said, they go to commercial, they come back, and there's another girl named Monica. Monica is the black sheep of the school. She's very different. She's very dark. She's pale in the face, but she wears dark clothes. She has dark hair. She wears dark makeup, that kind of girl. And the popular kids pick on her because she don't like them. She don't want to be around them. She's not scared of them. So of course they antagonize her. So she's only there because her mom wants her to have friends. Her mom wants her to be one of the cool kids, like any mom would. So she is there. They show the kids ride up there. They, they laugh and joking, the whole nine. So then the next scene is they're going to bed, and all the girls are in their pajamas, and Stacy has her flunkies around, and the whole bit. So Monica is in the shower. Stacy begins to read Monica's diary. Angela sticks up for Monica, essentially pissing off Stacy. So Stacy, she's like, "Oh, Stacy, you shouldn't do that. That's not right. Why would you, read her diary? She'll be out the shower soon." Stacy says, "Who are you, the diary police? Were you her bodyguard?" This essentially puts Angela on Stacy's radar. And if you know anything about high school antics, you don't want to be on the popular girl's radar in a bad way. So she feels it instantly. But when Monica, she gets into Stacy's face, Angela kind of breaks it up, and they get Monica, seated on the couch, and she's like, "Well, Monica, Stacy was just playing. Please don't take it bad. Don't make it a big deal." And Monica's like, "What are you, one of her flunkies too? You go over there and kiss her butt like the rest of them." So Angela feels bad because she's right, essentially. And, she feels it hit home. The next scene is they're going skiing. And remember, Angela has pissed Stacy off the night before because she challenged her. So Angela gets dressed and she comes out in her hand-me-down ski gear. And it looks hand-me-down. It does. It's not bad, but it's not new. So Stacy says to her, nice gear, Angela. Where'd you get it from? The thrift shop? But very snotty, very nasty. So Angela says nothing. She kind of folds inside. Jamie walks up and says, "Angela, why'd you have to, challenge her? Just ignore her for now and it should go away. She should forget about it by the time we get back to school." So fine. They get back to school and Stacy doesn't really see Angela, and Angela just wants to be her friend. She actually wants to be Stacy. She has a conversation with her sister saying that she wishes she was someone else, and she wishes Stacy just liked her because she ultimately would love to be Stacy in Stacy's shoes. Her sister tells her that you're perfect the way you are, everything a big sister's supposed to say. It doesn't resonate at all. So they're back in school. Angela finds out that she does not make the yearbook team. I think that's how you say it. She does not make the yearbook team, which crushes her because apparently she's a really good writer. She wanted to be editor, but she didn't make it. She tries out for cheerleading. She kind of messes up the steps. To me, Stacy didn't do any better, but she's the it girl. So she makes the squad. Angela, of course, doesn't, which we knew she wasn't. She's mousy. So, we knew she wasn't. But she does make the larks. And just to put in perspective, Angela, her friend Jamie, and Stacy are all the freshman class of the larks. They all just made it. That's going to come into play later. So they go on with the school life. She doesn't make that, but she does have the lark. She becomes a candy striper. She's, doing her social part of her social group. That day, when she realizes that she doesn't make, before she makes the larks, when she realizes that she doesn't make the school yearbook team and she doesn't make cheerleading, she's walking home sad, head down, sad. So she must be taking a long time because her mom sends her sister to find her, like to follow the route and find her. So she pulls up on her and she's like, "Hey, mom told me to find you." So she's like, "What are you driving?" And she's like, "Oh, this is dad's new project. He's going to fix it up for me. Get in." So she gets in. Her sister is cutting up vegetables, like I think a cucumber and maybe a tomato, in the car. So she was like, "Ew, what are you doing?" And she said, "Oh, this is what I eat for lunch. This is how I do it. I love vegetables and you should too." But her sister is not using a butter knife, a paring knife. She is a full-on butcher's knife. Full on. And she's cutting up vegetables in the car. So again, school happens. We in and out of school. We're showing her trying to be Stacy's friend. She's pretty much obsessed with Stacy. Um, she feels inferior because her parents don't have as much as Stacy's parents do. Even though they're in the same neighborhood, they clearly don't make the same money. So she feels it. She feels inferior, and Stacy lets her know that she's inferior. So again, they go on with school, and then her and her best friend Jill are in Jill's bedroom drinking. Again, these are 15-year-old girls, but teenagers do what teenagers do. And she starts to go into the, oh, boys like you, they don't like me, and I'm not cute, and I'm a nerd, and that whole jazz. Jill says, oh, get the violins, woe is me, nobody likes me, I'm Angela, nobody wants me, that kind of thing. Shut up and drink. So she does, and they laugh and they joke and they have a good time. And then Jill says, oh, I meant to tell you, my boyfriend is having a party, and he said I can invite whoever I want. So you should come, and you could see that boys do like you, that you are cute, and you're smart. Boys like that. And these are upperclassmen. Now, I don't know how old these guys are. They never showed them. I think they said her boyfriend's name, but they never showed him. So I'm assuming because they're freshmen, maybe he's a junior. So maybe 16, 17-ish. But they just called them the older crowd. So, and the upperclassmen. So Angela jumps up and she's like, oh my God, that's perfect. And, I can invite Stacy, and then we'll be best friends. She'll be my friend, and it'll be great. Jill hears none of this because she's 15 and drinking, so she's passed out. But it looks like she goes to a payphone and she calls Stacy's house. Stacy's mom answers, and she tells Stacy's mom, hey, I'm one of the Larks, and we're having a dinner, a surprise dinner for the new Larks. So Stacy doesn't know what it is. Can you just have her dressed, and someone will pick her up about 8 o'clock tomorrow? So her mom says, oh, great, because her mom knows about the Larks and she approves. So, that whole thing. So the mom says, well, I'm sorry, sweetie, I didn't get your name. Angela hangs up. So she never tells the mom who she is. The mom just knows it's a Lark. So the next day, the mom tells Stacy about, the plans. And then the next day, they have a baseball banquet for Stacy's little brother. So she tells her she's not going to be here, but, they told you to be ready by 8. Everything is all good. That's the plan for the night. Angela has lied to her mom and told her mom that she's babysitting for a neighbor. The mom drops her off at the neighbor's house. When they pull up, Angela says, hey, Mom, can you please leave the car? I will feel so much, I will be more comfortable because, if the car is in the driveway, then people will think somebody's home and they won't try to rob me while I'm with the kids. Her mom is very, very reluctant. She's like, you don't have a license. You're only 15. You need to have someone in the car when you drive because you only have your permit. I'm not comfortable with this, Angela. And Angela is like, well, Mom, I would feel so much more safe if you, just left it in the car. We only live 4 or 5 blocks. Why she drove her 4 or 5 blocks in the first place? Couldn't be me. But her mom agrees. After some prodding, her mom agrees. Another thing that wouldn't be me. If I drove here, I'm driving back. Okay? My son would have to deal with it. But she agrees to leave the car. No sooner than her mother hits the corner, because they live like I said, like 4 or 5 blocks, between 3 to 5 blocks away. No sooner than her mom hits the corner, Angela's in the car on her way to Stacy's house. So she honks the horn when she pulls up at Stacy's house. Stacy runs out and she sees that it's Angela, and she's very, very, very disappointed. So she literally says, oh, it's you. So she gets in the car and she's like, what is this? And Angela's like, oh, it's just transportation. And then she looks down and she sees the knife and she's like, what is this? Hors d'oeuvres. And Angela's like, no, my sister drives the car also. And, you know, she does this on her lunch break. So she puts it in the back seat. They don't talk about the knife anymore. So they're driving and Stacy says, well, I spoke to all the Larks and there's no surprise party. There's no surprise dinner. And she said, I know. I just said that to get so your mom will let you come out tonight. So she was like, well, where are we going? Remember, these girls are 15. She said, oh, we're going to a party. It's it's the older crowd. And she's like, well, how'd you get invited? Real snooty, real snotty. And she's like, well, I'm not really invited, but my friend Jill is. And she said I can bring whoever I want, so it's okay. So Stacy is like, you might like being embarrassed, but I don't. She said, you're trying to crash this party and bring me along for the ride. I'm not with it. But she doesn't really protest too much. So they're still in the car and they're, it's quiet. Then Stacy says for her to pull over. So she pulls over into like this vacant church lot. And Stacy pulls out some grass, as she calls it. And Angela is shocked. And she's like, oh, please, Angela, it's just a little grass. You want some? And Angela was like, no, I don't want. She's like, really? She's like, yeah, I just don't want it. Fine. So then she asks her again, how do you know these people? Why do you want me to be around? And they go back and forth a little bit. And Angela says to her, why are you like this? And she's like what? She was like, why are you so mean? I just want to be your friend. She said, I admire you, Stacy. I think you're beautiful. I think you're smart. You're great at everything you do. Why can't you just be nice to me? And Stacy's like, ew, it sounds like you trying to ask me out on a date. And she's like, no, that's not it. That's not what I meant. I just want to be your friend. I just want you to be my friend. And she jumps out the car and she's like, you're weirder than I thought. And this is how we get to the opening scene where she's at the door. They let her call. They take her home. The stabbing. So now it goes to commercial and we flash forward. So they show us what happened. We flash forward to Angela's in the shower. In the beginning, she came home. She cleaned the knife. She put it back in the butcher block. She went to bed. She did not know that Stacy was unalive. She just thought she was hurt. And she was going to be embarrassed when she got to school the next day. When Stacy told her what happened. When Stacy told everybody what happened. So Angela's in the shower. And her mom is yelling for her to get the phone. And she says, it sounds like Jamie. And it sounds like she's been crying. So she answers the phone. It is Jamie. And all Angela says is, oh my God. It has to be somebody we know. A lark? That's crazy. I'll see you at school. She gets to school and the principal loves his PA system. So he's announcing it on the PA and all that. And Stacy is unalived. So of course, because the last thing her mother heard was the Larks were picking her up. So the police interview all of the Larks. The police also interview the student body too. They don't just single them out because that could have been a lie, So Angela probably has the worst interview of anybody. She has guilt all over her face. But they let her go. They let her go, let everybody go. Months go by. And they begin to build a profile. Of course, because the FBI is involved now. And this is where James Avery shows up. He's actually an FBI agent in Uncle Phil from The Fresh Prince. And they once they build this profile, they re-interview everyone. And especially the Larks. So now, when they interview her, they have the profile built and they ask her, well, who does that sound like? And she said, wow, it sounds a lot like me. And the bad cop says, because, they're playing good cop, bad cop. The bad cop says, would you mind taking a lie detector test? And she said, sure, because she's that kind of kid. She's a pleaser. She's a people pleaser. She's going to say yes, even though she didn't want to. So she takes it. The first thing they ask her about is if she babysat that night. She says, yes, that is a lie, because there was no babysitting job that night. The second thing they ask her is if she saw Stacy Lockwood that night. She says no, that is a lie because she picked her up, clearly. So she fails this test miserably. She walks home sad. And it's months because this happened the beginning of the school year. And I know in New York, where I'm from, we start school in September. But I believe in California, they may start in August, so it's the summer. So this is now December because her parents are having a Christmas party. And nobody sees that Angela is depressed. She's hiding out in the back seat of the car that her dad is supposed to fix while he's fixing another car. They think that, oh, she didn't get the yearbook position. She didn't make cheerleader, but that's okay. It's Angela. You know, she's made the larks, so she should be okay. Her mother's a little worried, but not enough to dig. So she's walking around. I think it's about 2 weeks after she took the lie detector test, and her parents are having this holiday Christmas party. Her siblings are there. Angela is the youngest of 5. So her siblings who have moved out are there. Her sister is there also. The sister that's been back and forth, her name is Terry. She's there also, but she doesn't live there. She's just there a lot. I think she's the closest one in age to Angela, and maybe, I think it's 3 boys and 2 girls, something like that. So they have this big Christmas party. The pictures are pitiful. I mean, her dad is running around with this camera, and this is the 80s, so he has a big flash bulb camera, and she is pitiful in these pictures. And she tries to call her best friend, and Jill doesn't answer because she wants to tell, and she even says, "Oh, Jill, please answer." Now, mind you, this is, like I said, this has been months. So not only has Angela been dealing with the guilt of what she did and the shame that she put on her family, but she has to save face. So she's gone to this girl's funeral. She's, consoled the members of the Larks. She's keeping herself busy. She's trying to stay normal. But on top of that, she's also in a new world now because Stacy isn't there to block. Things are opening up for her. She's now a peer counselor. She has a boyfriend. She's wearing his Letterman jacket. Things are picking up for her, but she still has this looming over her head. So she, in the midst of the lie detector test and before the Christmas party, she confesses to her priest. Now, I thought that if you confess a crime, they still have to tell. I don't know. I know if I tell my pastor, he called the authority. If I tell him not unalive somebody, he's calling the authorities. He's going to hold me there. He's going to call the authorities. My pastor is also a lawyer, so maybe in my case, it may be attorney-client privilege. I don't know. But I believe they're still supposed to report. I don't know. I'm not Catholic, so I don't know how that really works with the priest. But he never says a word. He never says a word to her parents, to the authorities, nothing. So after this Christmas party, so that was before the Christmas party. So after this Christmas party, she suffers through it. She tries to tell her dad. He's all excited because of the Christmas party, and he just saw all his kids and grandkids. So she doesn't have the heart to tell him. So she just tells him that she loves him. She goes in the kitchen where her mom is cleaning up, and she asks her mom if they could talk. And her mom is like, yeah, we can talk. Just let me take a bath first. So her mom goes to take a bath. She falls asleep. So they don't speak that night. So the next morning on her way to school, her mom is making breakfast, and she's like, oh, Angela, we didn't speak last night. Do you want to talk now? And Angela is like, no, Mom, I gotta go. I wrote you and Dad a note, but Jill is outside waiting for me. She runs out. So the mom prays in the morning. She's a devout Catholic. She sets a timer, the whole 9. So when her timer goes off, she cleans her glasses. She pulls out this note that her daughter wrote because she just thinks it's just some girl stuff. It's a full confession. And in this confession, she tells her the whole thing. And she also tells her that she asks her mother not to hate her. She says and this is actually a excerpt from the real letter. She asked her mother not to hate her because she couldn't live with herself if her mother hated her. She asked her mother not to ask her why it happened because she does not know. And she also asked her mother to come with her to turn herself in and confess to the authorities. So, again, it's a TV movie, so they go to commercial. When they come back, her mother has screamed for the dad and drove up on the curb at the school, picked Angela up, hugged her, cried, the whole nine, and they go and turn Angela in. She goes on trial. She doesn't really need to be on trial. They mention that the trial is not necessary, but one of the lawyers says that the reason why they're going to trial is because they want to prove to whoever's out there that thinks they could do this again that this city is not going to tolerate this. So she's an example. So she's convicted. She's convicted of the max, which, because she is tried as a minor, is 7 years for unaliving her classmate. In jail, she gets her degree. She's a model prisoner. She comes home. She's on parole. And that, I believe Stacy's parents moved out of the neighborhood, and but that is the end of Death of a Cheerleader. So I would love to hear your thoughts. So for me, because it was said in the actual research that I did, it was said that the prosecutors believed and kind of pushed that this was premeditated because she had the knife. If the knife was really there because her sister drove the car and kept the knife, in the car. I mean, in my boyfriend's car, I have a whole knife, fork, and spoon set. It's plastic, but I do have a whole set in the glove compartment. I have, there's things that people leave in their vehicle for convenience. Again, this was a full-on butcher knife, but if it's true that her sister was using it for lunch, then I don't believe it was premeditated. I personally don't think it was premeditated anyway, because I've seen girls bullied to the point where they snap. And I believe that Angela, in this case, snapped. I believe that even in stabbing her, she still thought that Stacy would be fine and it would be basically social unaliving. Like her social life would be ended because she didn't think that she unalived her. She just thought that she hurt her, and now her social life was ruined. So I don't think that reaction it equates with premeditation. It's just my thought. But if you've ever seen the movie Heathers or you ever seen the movie Mean Girls, it's the same story. This is the same story from when I was in high school, from when your daughters were in high school. It's a never-ending story. My mother went through it. People are either jealous of something that you have, or they feel entitled because of whatever to treat you like you are nothing. And that to me makes no sense. I feel like if you don't like me, you don't like me. And you don't have to talk to me. If you don't like what I wear, if you think my clothes are dirty, dingy, poor, whatever, you stay in your lane and I'll stay in mine. That's how I see it. But like I said, this is a tale as old as time. And that's just what it is. If you have any suggestions on what you would like me to talk about next, just drop it down in the comments. And yeah, thank you for watching. We are on this journey together. So like I said, if you have any suggestions, just put them in the comments and I will do the research for you and we can talk about it. At the end of this video, I will put the pictures of the victim and the one that unalived her. So yeah, that was Death of a Cheerleader. It's a sad story. These are two 15-year-old girls, but this is a tale as old as time. And I pray it ends, but we all know somebody that's been in a situation and may not have gotten to this point, but we all know somebody that's been pushed to the limit in this type of situation. And yeah, we're on this journey together. So Thanks for watching.